Welcome to Wheels Up with Sunrise on Wheels. I'm Michelle Newman. Today's program has 3 segments. First, I'll take you on an adventure to outer space. Next, we'll learn how to make an astronaut, a space alien, and watch a cool rocket ship experiment with our friend Caroline. Last but not least, I hope you'll play along as we play Space Trivia.
The idea of space travel was once science fiction, existing only in our imagination, until it became clear in the 1940s that it might actually be buildable. At first, scientists were unsure whether the human body could even survive leaving Earth. Space is a demanding environment, and depending on where you are, it can lack adequate air for breathing, be very cold or hot, and have dangerous levels of radiation. Additionally, the physics of space travel make everything inside a rocket feel weightless. Floating around inside a protective spacecraft may sound fun, but it can have large effects on the human body. Plus, it can be dangerous with the hostile environment of the universe lurking on the other side of a thin metal shell. In the latter half of the 20th century, rockets were developed that were powerful enough to overcome the force of gravity to reach orbital velocities, paving the way for space exploration to become a reality. Did you know that the first living being to travel beyond Earth was a 2-year-old dog named Laika, a terrier mutt plucked from the streets of Moscow? She was the first to orbit the Earth in 1957. The first hero of America's spaceflight program was a chimpanzee named Ham. On January 31st, 1961, 3.5-year-old Ham was propelled into space, strapped into a container called a couch. Despite the intense speed, G-forces, and weightlessness, Ham performed his tasks correctly. Russian Lieutenant Yuri Gagarin was the first human to orbit Earth, and his flight lasted 108 minutes. Ham's courage and heroism paved the way for Alan Shepard Jr., the first American in space. In 1961, President John F. Kennedy challenged the nation to land astronauts on the moon by the end of the decade. And in 1962, John Glenn was the first American to orbit Earth. On July 20th, 1969, astronaut Neil Armstrong so artfully said as he stepped on the moon,
"It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind."
6 Apollo missions were made to explore the moon between 1969 and 1972. Apollo 13 was NASA's 3rd moon landing mission, but the astronauts never made it to the lunar surface. You may have seen the movie. An oxygen tank explosion forced the crew to abandon all thoughts of reaching the moon. The spacecraft was damaged, but the crew was able to seek cramped shelter in the lunar module. The trip back to Earth was an uncomfortable splashdown. A total of 12 U.S. astronauts have walked on the moon, conducted scientific research, studied the lunar surface, and collected moon rocks. During the 1960s and 70s, orbiting satellites and spacecrafts photographed and probed the moon, the surface of Mars, and sent back detailed images of Jupiter and Saturn, their rings and their moons. For decades, NASA spacecrafts streaked through Florida skies, taking advantage of the faster rotation of the planet near the equator to slingshot people and machines over the Atlantic and into space. In April 1981, the launch of the space shuttle Columbia ushered in a period of reliance on a reusable shuttle. 24 successful shuttle launches fulfilled many scientific and military requirements, until January 28, 1986, when just 73 seconds after liftoff, the Space Shuttle Challenger exploded. Another shuttle tragedy occurred in 2003 when the shuttle Columbia broke apart upon re-entering Earth. The U.S.'s National Aeronautics and Space Administration, NASA, spacecrafts have carried people into orbit repeatedly, launched, recovered, and repaired satellites, conducted cutting-edge research, and helped build the largest structure in space, the International Space Station. The final Space Shuttle mission ended July 21, 2011, when Atlantis rolled to a stop in NASA's Kennedy Space Center in Florida. They retired the shuttle program, long plagued by growing expenses, and the U.S. lost its ability to send astronauts into orbit from home. So instead, they bought seats on a Russian spacecraft, starting at about $20 million, and more recently, NASA paid as much as $90 million per astronaut. Pretty pricey to get into space. The International Space Station is a research laboratory in low Earth orbit. With many different partners contributing to its design and construction, this high-flying laboratory has become a symbol of cooperation in space exploration. The station has been continuously occupied since November 2000, and it is serviced by a variety of visiting spacecraft. It's been visited by astronauts and cosmonauts from 17 different nations. It took 10 years and more than 30 missions to assemble. The space station is approximately the size of a football field, a 460-ton permanently crewed platform orbiting 250 miles above Earth. Astronauts and cosmonauts from all over the world collaborate and share this laboratory in the sky, living and working together with scientists on Earth to answer a multitude of scientific questions. In May 2020, 2 American astronauts launched into orbit, igniting a new spaceflight era. Amazingly, and for the first time, the spaceship was built not by the government, but by SpaceX, a private company founded by the billionaire Elon Musk. He's co-founder of Tesla Automobiles. You might have heard of him. And the company's ultimate goal is sending colonists to Mars. Against a backdrop of shifting clouds and patches of welcome blue sky, a SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket named Crew Dragon roared to life at NASA's Kennedy Space Center in Florida, the same Florida launch pad that once served Apollo missions and the Space Shuttle. Strapped into the 229-foot-tall rocket, veteran U.S. astronauts Bob Behnken and Doug Hurley soared into the sky, marking a triumphant return to orbit from U.S. shores. Dragon docked with the ISS, joining U.S. astronaut Chris Cassidy and 2 Russian cosmonauts. Just recently, Behnken and Cassidy conducted a 5.5-hour spacewalk and completed a number of tasks designed to upgrade the ISS systems. When the Demo 2 astronauts leave the ISS, they'll fly Dragon back through Earth's atmosphere and splash down off Florida's Atlantic coast using 4 parachutes. The ocean landing is similar to the watery touchdowns of U.S. spacecraft in the 1960s and 1970s. Next, SpaceX is aiming for the moon. Only 24 humans have been to the moon in history, and no one has been back since 1972. Why the moon, you might ask? It is one of Earth's closest habitable neighbors and provides an opportunity to gain valuable experiences for mission to Mars and beyond. SpaceX was selected to develop a lunar-optimized Starship, a fully reusable transportation system designed to carry crew and cargo to Earth's orbit, the Moon, Mars, and beyond. After this successful mission to ISS, NASA can buy seats on Crew Dragon, and maybe soon anyone with enough cash, at least in theory, could buy a ticket to orbit. Designed to carry as many as 7 people between Florida's Atlantic coast and low Earth orbit, the SpaceX capsule is a sleek modern vehicle with windows, touchscreen control panels, and a large storage compartment. Maybe someday it would be a reality that you or I could travel to outer space. Can you imagine? What do you think it would be like? Well, I recently read some articles from actual astronauts. One said it can be crowded, noisy, and occasionally uncomfortable, but you can't beat the view. Sitting on the launch pad atop 7 million pounds of explosive rocket fuel, you might be a little nervous, but strapped in like a sack of potatoes, it's kind of boring as you wait through thousands of pre-launch checks. But the launch itself is a whole other thing. From the pad to orbit in 8.5 minutes, accelerating the entire time until you reach the orbital velocity of 17,500 miles per hour. Now that sounds like quite a ride. Did you know that once a spacecraft reaches orbit, everything inside it appears weightless? Anything or anyone that's not tied down will float. That's because in space there is no gravity. All our everyday lives involve such activities as sitting, walking, picking up things from the ground, and lying in bed. None of these activities are possible in orbit. Astronauts feel the effect of weightlessness when the rocket engines are turned off. Straight away, they begin to float, held down only by seatbelts. Weightlessness allows you to appear super strong. You can lift objects that would be far too heavy to move on Earth, but there are some drawbacks. Without the effect of gravity, blood and other bodily fluids begin to flow towards the head, which can cause a headache. With no gravity to push against, bones and muscles can become weak. To stay fit, astronauts exercise several hours each day. But they do get some time off. Here's some cosmonauts playing soccer. Sometimes they just want to see how many zero-G backflips they can do before throwing up. Hair washing can be a challenge, but how cool is water ping pong? Food is kind of strange. It's freeze-dried and vacuum-packed. Looks disgusting. Sleeping isn't easy. You sleep in a sleeping bag. A little like camping, but not. The bag has armholes, so you stick your arms through and you have to strap in so you or your arm doesn't float away. And what about the toilet? Also not easy. Space toilets use vacuums and offer a user-specific funnel for pee and a seat with a small hole, only 4 inches in diameter, for the other stuff. Navigating can be tough. Gross. When you return to Earth, your inner ear, which keeps you balanced, has been basically turned off, and you have to relearn how to move in gravity. It can take a while to get your Earth legs back. What do you think? Would you like to give it a try?
Hi, my name is Caroline, and I'm so excited to do another craft with you today. Today's theme is all about Imaginarium, and in the video we imagined what it would be like to go into space. So today we're going to be doing 2 outer space themed crafts and a special science experiment at the end. I hope you have fun! For the astronaut craft you will need white paper, paper for the astronaut's face, and for my background I'm going to do black paper with white stars using a white crayon to make it look like the galaxy. But if you don't have a white crayon, you can use blue and green paper to make it look like Earth. I'm also using scissors, glue, and some markers to decorate my astronaut. Now we're going to make our astronaut's background. So I'm using a paper plate to trace my circle because we want to take up most of our paper, but if you don't have anything to trace, you could just cut it out, but make sure that you use up almost the whole paper. So I'm using my white crayon to trace it so that I can see it. It's just a little bit easier, but it doesn't have to be a perfect circle. So if you cut yours out, it doesn't have to be perfect. So now I'm gonna cut this out. Also, if you wanted to do the thing I mentioned earlier about making it look like it's like Earth, you can just cut out a blue circle and then you can cut out the different shapes of green that make it look like land. Okay, so now I have my background, and now we're gonna make the astronaut. So you need your white paper, and first we're gonna make his legs. So you can hold your paper this way and cut along here. And to make them look like they're popping out, what we're gonna do is you're gonna take the end of your paper and fold it a little bit, fold it as little as you can, and then you're gonna fold it back the other way. So continue to do this all the way down your paper. And every time you do it, you wanna push down a little bit so that when you're done and you let go, it looks like it's popping out. So do this all the way down. Okay, so now I'm gonna squeeze it together. And now it looks like this. So you can leave that to the side, and now we're gonna make another one for the other leg. So now I have my 2 legs. I'm gonna put those to the side, and now we're gonna do our astronaut's arms. So we're gonna do the same thing that we did for the legs, but we're gonna make them a little bit shorter. So I'm just gonna cut along here and stop about there. It doesn't have to be perfect, but about that long. And then we're gonna do the same thing that we did for the legs. So now I'm finishing up my other arm. Okay, so now I have both of my arms and both of my legs. Now we're gonna make the astronaut's body. So we're gonna cut another strip of our paper, but this time it should be much thicker, and it should be about this long. And then we're gonna put some glue on the end, and then we're gonna roll it and stick it to the other side, almost like a paper chain. So this is gonna be our astronaut's body. And now we're gonna make his face. So use the color that you're using for his face, and we're gonna cut a circle. Like that. Now we're gonna put our astronaut together. So first we're gonna do his body. So you need your little chain. Put some glue on it. And then we're gonna stick it in the middle of our paper, like that. Then we're gonna do his face. So right on top of that, we're gonna put some glue, and then stick his face on. So now we're gonna do the astronaut's arms. So you need these that you made earlier, the smaller ones, and we're gonna glue them on right next to the body. So you just wanna like fold the bottom one back a little bit and then glue it on the bottom, and then stick it so it stays up. If yours aren't staying up, you can always glue them to the body so that they stay there and they stay upwards, but mine are actually staying pretty well, so I'm just gonna leave them. Okay, so now my arms are done, and now we're gonna do the legs. Mine look a little bit big, but like you can pretend to glue them and see if they're too long. So mine look a little bit long, so I'm just gonna cut them a little. You can cut them as short or as long as you want. That looks good. I still kind of want them like off the edge, but not too much. So now I'm just gonna cut the other one the same. Okay, so now we're gonna glue those. I'm gonna lift up the body a little bit and just glue them on under there so that you don't really see like where you glued it. And if you want, you can glue the body down onto them like I just did. Okay. Now we're gonna make the astronaut's face. So I'm using a black marker to make the eyes and the mouth. And I'm just gonna draw 2 circles for the eyes, like that. And then I'm gonna color in part of it, like that. And then I'm gonna draw the smile, like that. Now we're gonna make the astronaut's helmet. So you need to cut a piece of your paper about this long. And now we're gonna make a paper chain, almost like we did with the body. So you're gonna put some glue at the end and then stick it to the other side. So now we have this. And now we're gonna glue it to our astronaut's body over here. So you're gonna put some glue down and then stick it on so that it looks like its helmet, but it's also 3D. Now we're gonna decorate. So you can decorate on the background, on the body, on the helmet, whatever you want. I'm just gonna decorate on my background by using my white crayon and putting some little stars. So if you wanna do this, what I do is I just make a little X like that, and then put one line down the middle and then one line across. So I'm just gonna do that all over. This is what mine looks like. For the alien craft, you will need a piece of paper for your alien. I'm using green. And then a piece of paper for your spaceship, and I'm using pink. You also need scissors, glue, a popsicle stick, a pipe cleaner, which is optional, but it's for the antennas. So you can use it, but you don't have to. And then I'm using 3 googly eyes because my alien is gonna have 3 eyes, but it can have 1 eye, it can have 2 eyes, and if you don't have googly eyes, you can also just draw in the eyes. Now we're gonna make our spaceship. So I'm using pink for my spaceship, and I'm just gonna use a pencil to draw it before I cut it out. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna just cut a semicircle shape like that. So it should be like that, and then cut it out. And then once we cut it out, we're gonna just make the edges a little bit more round. So like where this is like pointed, we're just gonna like make them a little bit rounder. You don't have to do this, but I'm going to. It looks like this. So now we're gonna do the landing gear for our spaceship. So we're gonna need 2, so I'm just gonna fold my paper in half so that you do 2 at one time. And I'm using a black marker to draw it so that you guys can see it a little bit better, but you can use a pencil so that if you make a mistake, you can erase it. So the shape is almost like a long rectangle with a circle at the end, kind of like that. And now I'm gonna cut it out. It's a little bit tricky to cut, but it doesn't have to be perfect. Okay, so now I have them, and now we're gonna glue them on to the bottom of our spaceship. So you could put some glue and then stick it on. And also, if you want, you can make these a different color than your spaceship, but I'm just gonna do it the same color. So now we're gonna flip our paper over so that it looks like the landing is coming out the back. So now we're gonna draw in something for our alien to stand on. So I'm gonna use orange, and we're just gonna make a little spot at the bottom so that our alien can stand on it. So like that. Before we start coloring it in, we're gonna add some details. So I'm gonna use a blue marker, but you can use any color you want. And I'm just gonna draw some like circles to make it look more like a spaceship, but you can draw anything you want, like that. And now I can color it in. So this is what mine looks like. And now we're gonna make the alien. So we're gonna cut out a shape for the alien. Okay, that's good. So now, before we glue on the alien, I'm gonna cut 2 little pieces from my pipe cleaner to make it look like the antennas. So, cut a piece like that, about that big, and then another one. And you don't have to do this step. If you don't have pipe cleaners, you could just draw in the antenna, or if you want it to look like it's coming off the paper, you can cut out a piece of paper to make it look like it's popping out. So now we're gonna glue on the alien. So we're gonna put glue all over the alien. Now we're gonna stick it on top of the part that we colored in before. Like that. And now we're gonna lift it up on the top, put some more glue, and then we're gonna stick the pipe cleaners on, push the alien on top of the pipe cleaners, press down, and now it looks like the antennas. So the last step is we're gonna do the alien's face. So I'm using my 3 googly eyes. You can do as many eyes as you want. You could do eyes all over. You could do 2 eyes, you could do 1 eye. I'm doing 3. So I'm doing one of my eyes a little bit higher than the others, like that. And now we're gonna do the alien smile. So I'm gonna use a black marker and just draw in a smile. And so that's the alien craft. In the video, we saw how rockets launch, so I'm gonna launch my own rocket with Mentos and Coke. Now I'm gonna show you how I just did that experiment. So first, make sure that you're outside and you have a big area because it's a little bit messy. And what you will need is some Coke, and I'm using Diet Coke because it has no sugar, so it's a little bit less sticky, but you can use regular Coke also. And then you'll also need Mentos, which are like a mint candy, and they look like this. And then I made this little rocket with a laminating sheet, and I rolled it up so the Mentos will fit inside, and the sticky part is on the outside. But if you don't have a laminating sheet, you can use anything and roll it. I just used this so that you could see the Mentos go through because it's clear. And then I used some paper to make it look more like a rocket. And then you also need anything that you can put on top of the Coke before the Mentos fall in. So I'm just using this, but you can use a piece of paper. So you will take your Mentos out of the packaging and put them inside here, and then hold it like this so they don't fall through. I'm just showing you in the packaging. But what you will do is you will put your piece of paper or clear piece on top of the Coke, and you want to hold it like this. And then when you're ready to let it go through, you're going to pull this away, and the Mentos are going to fall in, and they'll create an explosion. I hope you had fun doing these crafts with me and watching me do the homemade rocket launch. Bye!
Well, that was fun. Today I'm joined by my friends, Sherry, Linda, and Janet, to play space trivia. They haven't seen the movie yet that you saw right before the craft. We'll have 10 questions, 4 answers, only one of which is correct. I hope you'll play along. Okay, who is John Glenn? A, the first American to orbit Earth. B, the first civilian in space. C, the last American to walk on the moon. Or D, the owner of SpaceX. What do you think? Who is John Glenn? And the answer is the first American to orbit Earth.
I read the first civilian. Oh, he wasn't a civilian. He was an astronaut.
He was an astronaut.
Oh,
Question
shoot.
number 2. What year did Apollo 11 land on the moon? 1950, 1969, 1980, or 2000? This isn't a trick question. Apollo 11 was the one that landed on the moon.
Right.
1950, 1969, 1980, or 2000? And the correct answer is 1969.
Yay!
Yay. Question number 3. Which animals have been to space? A dog, a chimpanzee, human beings, or all of the above? What do you think? Which animals have gone to space?
I think I got this wrong.
I don't know.
Okay,
I don't know if I got
well, the
it.
answer is all of the above. There
Yay!
was a dog named Laika from Moscow, first animal. There was a chimpanzee named Ham, was the first American animal. And then, of course, we know humans have.
Question number 4.
That's why I thought
Why
it was
do
all the
people
above.
float around in space? Is there too much helium, so they're kind of like a balloon? Is there not enough oxygen? Is there very little gravity? Or did just the fluids go to your head, which makes you float? And the answer is very little gravity. Question number 5. Where do astronauts sleep in space? In a tent, in a hammock, in a sleeping bag, or do they have to sleep in the chair?
Ooh.
Tricky question for me.
And the correct answer, in a sleeping bag.
Oh, I wrote in a chair because I thought maybe they had to be like held down.
I think originally they did. Now they're in a sleeping bag that has armholes and they have to kind of latch themselves in. Cool. Question number 6. What is the food like in space? Is it spicy? Is it freeze-dried? Are there lots of pizza?
Getting pizza
Or
from
is
the
it
air.
just delicious? What do you think the food might be like in space? It is freeze-dried.
Do you guys remember ever trying that like freeze-dried ice cream
Yes.
that they used to have those packets?
Yeah, you buy it at museums.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Or how about Tang?
Tang, right.
Dang.
How big is the International Space Station? Big as a football field, tall as the Empire State Building. It's not big, it's tiny. Or as big as a 3-bedroom house.
Oh boy.
Think.
Hard one.
How
I
big?
don't know.
And the answer is it's as big as a
Oh my gosh.
It's amazing.
I thought it was a trick. I wrote it was tiny.
Me too. Most of my information I'm getting from the Big Bang Theory.
Question number 8. How many people have walked on the moon?
Oh.
2,
Oh.
8, 12, or 25? This
Ooh, that's
Ooh,
hard.
that's a big guess.
That's a big guess. Yeah.
It's an interesting one, though, don't you think?
Yeah.
The
It's all interesting.
answer is 12. There have been 12
Ooh,
people that have
that
walked
was
on the moon.
big guess.
Oh, well with this.
Good
You
guesser.
are, Janet. Proud of you.
Question number 9. Who was the first American to walk on the moon? Was it Sally Ride, May Carroll Jemison, Neil Armstrong, or John Glenn?
I should know
These
this.
are all astronauts, I must tell you.
Yeah.
And the correct answer is Neil Armstrong.
I wrote John
Sally
Glenn.
Ride was the first woman in space.
Right.
Carol Jemison was one of the first African-American women in space. And then John Glenn was not the first astronaut. It was Neil Armstrong. Okay, let's see what our rankings are saying. Janet, you have all questions right. Amazing.
Wow.
Janet!
In 6,
I haven't won a game yet. This is amazing.
Yay, Janet! Oh my
So-
God, I did terrible on that one.
Oh, not so bad. If you'd watch my movie, you would know more of them. So, question number 10. What was historic about the most recent rocket launch? It was the first time a civilian flew into space. Russia and the US jointly paid for the rocket. It was the first time a monkey went into space, or it was the first time NASA astronauts launched from American soil in a commercially built and operated American cruise.
Oh, I missed the
We're running
timing.
out of time.
Oh, I missed the time.
D. Yeah, D.
It was the first time a commercially built and operated American cruise spacecraft launched. It was from SpaceX.
Yeah.
Elon Musk.
Janet!
Congratulations.
Thank you. Yay.
This is so interesting. I always find space, I look forward to watching the movie.
I hope you enjoyed Space Trivia, and I'll see you next time.